recording, and it's going to blur out for a second. You know the process. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
We're good?
We're good.
How are you?
I am super well. The weather's beautiful. What more can I say? You know,
Exactly.
Let's be honest. Yeah.
It helps, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. It really does. And it causes its own issue because people want to go out in it, right? And therein lies the rub.
I was talking with somebody that there's part of me that wishes this was happening in December, November, where we were forced to stay inside and that we had horrendous weather where no one could go out at the same time. You know, it is what it is.
Well, it's Easter weekend, right? So we traditionally, bank holidays in the UK traditionally are usually washouts. Everyone looks forward for the bank holidays to do the cookouts, the barbecues, etc., etc. And normally it pisses down. And we've got the hottest Easter bank holiday ever. And people are just like, boom.
Yeah, it was, well, in Chicago, normally it's 45, 50 degrees here this time of year. Probably similar to you, maybe a little bit colder than your area.
A little bit colder, just a little bit out here.
Yeah, it's been 78 for the past 2 days.
Yeah, it's that today here. It's just crazy.
And dude, if I had a camera outside my house, there's no social distancing going on. I mean,
fortunately, that's still happening here for the moment. So let's give them praise for that.
If you were to see by me, social distancing is taking on a new way because there's a billion people on the street all about 8 feet apart from one another. So to me, it's not really helping when there's so many people out, even if they're 8 feet apart.
Yeah,
so,
it's not. No.
But anyway, we all have our own ways of managing with this. Here's the thing. It's for everyone who's watching. This is my good friend Paul Webb, who I literally consider a mentor. He is just learning of that over the last couple of weeks now.
He is, yeah. And he's super chuffed with that, let me tell you.
I follow you in a stalking manner, if that makes you uncomfortable.
Batman, what do I know?
Right, you hide in the night, bro. So you've got for those that may be watching this for the first time, and I'm going to publish this outside of This Great Life too. So you've got a seminar coming up with a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to butcher it and talk about it. I want you to, if you could real quick, for people that may be new to Paul Webb, talk about what you do real quick, your 30-second overview of who you are. Right. And then let's dive into what you've got going on, because I think from what you shared with us last week, the price point is amazing. What you're going to be talking about is fantastic. And I think it's something that everyone would benefit from, particularly those in my group here in This Great Life. So if you could give us that background and then share what's going on with you and your partner.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do it. I didn't know you were going to do this today, so I'm super thrilled that you're comfortable enough to have me share this in your group, which is amazing. So thank you very much. For those that don't know, I'm a coach, a coach with vast experience, 30 years of coaching, 31 years this year, actually. And I've done it all over the world with all sorts of people, and I help people up level. Simple as that, in any area of their life. And I do it by having people look within, because that's where all the magic happens. All right. So you can see what's happening externally at the moment, what's going on worldwide. And we have to be very, very careful of what we give attention to. And so the idea of doing this event, which is called Breaking Through, with myself and a good friend of mine, Dr. Hader Al-Hakim, who is an eye surgeon here in the UK of some standing. We were going to do this originally as a live event for just the medical profession, because we have a national health service over here. It's superb, but it's chronically underfunded, chronically understaffed, and creaking at the seams. So all the profession are stressed, are tired, are leaving in droves. So initially we were going to do this to help with that level of stress, that level of distress, if you like, and looking at a new paradigm, a new way. And that's what it was originally going to be. But clearly the lockdown and what's happened in the last month or two has left us unable to hold it as it was. So what we decided to do, rather than just shelve it, we decided to change it slightly. So we decided to adapt, which I think is a great skill that so many people don't think they possess, but actually we do. We're very, very creative if we allow ourselves to be, and if we ask good questions. What is the benefit of this? What can I get out of this? Rather than asking how am I going to do this, which kind of closes things down because you've only got your experience to go on. when you ask open-ended questions, you tap into infinite answers, because every question has an answer. We live in a relative universe. There are opposites, right? So we decided to change the focus slightly, to do a breaking through event. So breaking through the fear, breaking through the mystery and the stress and the anxiety that are surrounding current times, and helping people step outside of that by showing them how to go within and change certain things. It's going to be an online event, so we're doing it on the medium of the internet. It's going to be super, super cheap. I mean, I think we're charging something like somewhere between $15 and $20 for it. It's next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. UK time, which I believe in your time, Jack, is 12:30, so that'd be lunchtime.
Yep. Yeah, to me, it's a perfect time for people to potentially take a break from what they're doing, just to get some mindfulness thrown at them, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And I think, look, I did a video earlier and I quoted some research, and I'm happy to share that with you right now if you want, because it's fantastic research. So it was done in 2014, and it was done on Facebook, and it involved 689,003 users of Facebook. So it was a massive study. And what they were looking at how someone's newsfeed affects the mood of other people. And this was done using something called emotional contagion, right? So we're speaking together, right? So if you're aligning with what I'm saying, the same parts of your brain are lighting up as my brain, right? So we have this connection. And if anyone's watching this and they're aligning with what I'm saying as well, your brain is lighting up in the same way as well. So these 690,000 users, they had their news feed manipulated, right? So what they did is they put in more negative posts, and they watched what happened. So when they put more negative posts in these users' Facebook feeds, they saw that the users started posting in negative ways. Wow. And then the people that saw their feed started posting also in negative ways. But when they changed it to more positive posts, they saw that the user started posting more positively, and their friends and followers started also posting more positively. What happens is there's some kind of emotional coherence that happens. So if you look at all the news that's going on now, that is having some level of subconscious coherence emotionally with you. Right. So we need to be firstly aware of this. This is where I do my work around this awareness. We call it mindfulness, but really it's awareness. It's
awareness. Totally agree.
Perception and that kind of thing. So we need to be aware that what we're being exposed to is having an effect at a subconscious level, and then we're passing that effect on. There was a great moment in history. Clearly, the people that were involved weren't that great, but the Nuremberg rallies in the 1930s, when Hitler was rising, are a prime example of this, where millions of people turned up and were exposed to the same kind of emotional contagion, where a great speaker, in this case Hitler, can enrapture a huge audience and have them step outside of themselves and think all sorts of nonsense and do all sorts of terrible things. And we need to be very aware of that. So that's why the event, that's what we're going to cover. And we're going to give you tools in that event to help you step outside of the current malaise of news and make your own news, which is...
I love it. And I love the example you gave. I've often, outside of the group that I manage, just in personal relationships, talk with people about, for example, the nature of politics, and politicians often aren't the ones starting the news. They're just fanning the flames that exist in people.
Yeah.
And so they pull certain levers on people. There's a great book, and I don't know if you've ever read it. It was given to me by a really good friend. I consider myself relatively intelligent, and it's one of those books where I have to read a paragraph 7 times over, and I do one of these things, Paul. I rub my eyes and go, what the hell? It's called The Untethered Soul.
Yes, I know the book. Yes.
Okay, and it's deep end of the pool reading, and it talks about how there's 2 brains inside of us, right? And we're constantly having discussions with both of those brains. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing it. It's not nearly that simple or mundane, but if you haven't read it, you know my point. And I think that's exactly, I love what you're talking about here. It's how do you separate those external influences that may be guiding you unconsciously and grab your consciousness to come back in and go, I can make a choice here. And I'm not ultimately saying we can choose everything, right? Environment plays a factor and all those other things. But I'm glad that these are some of the things you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, and
That's
we're going to talk
awesome.
about the environment thing as well,
Good.
because
Yeah.
that's incredibly important. I'm so glad that you're so in tune here, and you sometimes do yourself a disservice by thinking you're not as far along as you think you are. You're quite intuitive, and
I think I just admire too many other people too much, and I hold myself up
maybe, yeah.
against that.
Yeah, but it is about environment. A lot of it is about
Yeah.
environment, and we have two environments. We have the external environment in which we move around in, but we have our internal environment as well.
Right.
The problem is, you see, that the majority of the time, about 95% of the time, we are not aware of what we're doing. We're run by subconscious drivers, or
Right.
subconscious belief systems,
Yes.
paradigms, stories. So we're only consciously aware 5% of the time. Now, that's quite frightening, because that means that we don't know what we don't know, right?
Right.
So these stories, these narratives are being added to and being, just nagging away at us in the background there.
Right.
And we have to shine a light on them. We have to become more aware. And that's what I do. That's why I come online every day. That's why I upset people. I try and trigger them. And I'm not trying to upset them, but some get upset. But I'm trying to
Of
get them to think
course.
more critically, right? You
Yeah.
just sit. I just hang on a minute. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination. And I tell you why, because a conspiracy theorist cannot be wrong, right? And I love to be proved wrong, because I'm first and
Same.
foremost a student, right? Yes, I
Same.
teach. Yes, I mentor. Yes, I coach, but I learn all the time. I'm reading this at the moment. This is my current book. This is a
Yeah.
great book. It was written in 1921. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
book. And
Yeah.
again, it's one of those you read and you have to read again and again and again,
Right.
because it takes time to get into the language and understand what's being done. But it's talking about all this stuff that we're talking about today. You have to
Yeah.
become aware.
And see what I feel in the little bit of the work that I've done with some folks, and I'll make a sports analogy, not because that's the only thing that we can both recognize. It just seems simple at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That once you are aware, and once you have accepted that need to change or be different, whatever it is, whether it's a chemical dependency, relationship dependency, want to change your body weight, or some goal you're striving toward. I think what happens in this whole mindset world that we live in is that then comes the work. And I don't mean work in terms of arduous
Yeah.
and overbearing, but we talked earlier about what I had to endure because of a back injury.
Yeah.
What's missed in what you may see now as someone that physically looks like they're in shape is that required energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to change your mindset, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, you said some things that I think you're going to agree with me on. Critical thinking requires energy. It requires focus. It
Yeah.
requires, when you hit the acceptance awareness equivalent, right? Then it's, all right, now I've got to start putting some of this stuff to work.
Yeah.
And again, I'm always a little leery of saying the term work because it sounds arduous as a term, but forget that nuance for a second. It's energy. And in order for us to get to that point, because see if I'm right on this, even if, or if at least in the ballpark, even as you start having some greater awareness and critical thinking, you still have moments, I do, where I slip back.
Yeah.
The difference now is that I don't slip back nearly as far
No.
or for as long of a duration.
Exactly.
But to get to that point as an athlete, as a former football player, soccer player, you didn't kick the ball well. You didn't bend it well at first. It took hours and hours of repetition, of critical thinking, of slowing your body down, of, in fact, I'd argue, getting away from it for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Resetting.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on all that when it comes to actually moving from that place of awareness to actually change?
I think it's a brilliant question, and I love the way you've put it. And I think it's a very in-depth question, and I'll do my best to kind of do an overview here.
Okay.
First and foremost, I think we're spoiled today. I think because we have access to successful people in any area, and we get more personal access. So we can see an athlete practicing or training or just messing around in their home or in their garden or whatever. We can see a successful entrepreneur holding meetings, or we're like flies on the wall today, where we've never been before. So we get a distorted view of what actually happens in the world of improvement and success and change, right? So we don't see the groundwork. We don't see the grit, the grind, the hustle, whatever you want to call it, because there has to be an element of energy exchange, as you say. So we see the finished article mostly, and we think that that's where they started. We've lost sight of the fact that there's a time lag, right? Mm-hmm. We've lost sight of the fact that, it took me from the age of 9 to the age of 16 to be classed as a really good professional goalkeeper, right? So 7 years of working every day, every single day, non-stop. So much so that my parents took me to the doctor because they thought there was something wrong with me. Because all I did was just go in the garden, bang, bang, kicking the ball against the wall, catching it. Bang, 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 mm-hmm. Right? Because that's all I knew. Because that's all I wanted to do. I had no energy to give to anything else. I was bright at school. I did my schoolwork, but I didn't go out with friends unless I was playing football. That was it. Right? So I think we don't see that. So that's the first thing. We have to understand that there is a time lag and there's a price to pay. It's really, very important. So if you decide you want to do something, like if you want to read a book, right? You want to read a book, you have to read it. You can hear it now, you can watch it on YouTube, but ultimately you have to spend the time engaging with what's written, the content in there, to get the information out. There's a time lag, right? So I think that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is also understanding that, there are going to be days when you ain't going to want to do it. You've alluded to that. It's the same with me. I'm not going to lie to people and say, oh yeah, every day I turn up and it's wonderful. No, some days it's a real fucking struggle. Right? Yep. I don't want to do it. And I really have to roll myself out of bed and just sit on the edge of the bed thinking, I could go back to bed. I don't need to get up. And I have this conversation with myself. But let's just, and what I tend to do then is I'm just going to do the next step. The next step. I'm going to read that one page. I'm going to write that 100 words. I'm going to do that one deadlift or that one squat. I'm going to do that one walk around the block. Just the next thing, whatever it is, however small it is, it doesn't matter, as long as you're moving in that direction. Yep. And I think that these are the things that are, you see, the mindset industry. And as soon as you put industry in front of anything, you're fucked, right? Mm-hmm. You really are, because everyone jumps on the bandwagon. Yep. So the mindset industry has bastardized what it actually means. Because all mindset is, as we said earlier, is becoming aware. Right? So you have to become aware of what's going on. You have to take back control of these stories that are directing your life, right? You have to do some form of psychoanalysis, some internal work. And unless you're prepared to do that, unless you're prepared to eat shit, as one of my old mentors used to say, right? And feel that strain and that stress. Okay, why did I do that? Okay, well, that was what was my level of consciousness at that time. I need to forgive that. I need to forgive everyone that was involved with it. And I need to understand that that's gone. It's not here. It's not real. Move on. Yeah. And then we move, because it's all about creating the next step. It's, being in the now is amazing. It's wonderful. But everything flows from there. But if you're into creation, and if you're into accumulation, and if you're into, actually accomplishment, you need to be flowing somewhere. Yep. So that's very, very important. So they're the sort of the things I look at when I look at that.
I love it. And dude, and not just to be a goofy sycophant towards you, really agree with everything you're talking about. And I've always felt that, yes, it's supremely important to be aware and to be knowledgeable of an interest or a desire you have. I've more of my work is on the business side of things, and I always talk about, if you know your reason why, so many other things fall into place. The question is, do you know your reason why you're doing something? Have you dived into the depths of that pool? You could say, I want to lose weight, and I'm going to ask a question of you, why?
Why exactly?
Well, because I've got this event going on. Well, why is it important? And I'm going to keep asking like a child asks, why? Why?
It's very important.
And somehow we're going to get through all of the stuff that's up here and get way into the soul and core of you. And I don't know what that is for anybody else. It's only theirs to answer. And if that why is real, then doing that work, the critical thinking, becomes more understandable from my experience. And they're more willing to put in that effort. My son, corniest example, is a switch hitter in college baseball right now. And when he was evaluated by professional scouts, they literally said that they thought he was a natural lefty hitter. He's naturally a righty hitter, okay? And they said, so you've always been a lefty hitter. How hard did you work on being a righty hitter? And Sam goes, I'm a righty. I've never batted lefty. And they asked him, when did you start? And to your point about your age when you started, he was 9 years old, but that's not the story. It's not that he got an early start, because people could hear that and go, well, I'm 35,
Mm.
right? To me, the timing of the start is irrelevant. The point of the story is when he was 9, he decided he wanted to be a switch hitter because he went to a professional baseball game here in Chicago. And I explained to him the benefit of being a switch hitter versus staying on one side of the plate.
Yeah, yeah.
And at 9 years old, he was able to compute that that gave him a little bit of an advantage.
Right.
Okay. And so the very first fall, so he decides this in July or August, he plays fall baseball because, you know, baseball ends in the States for most kids around July. And then they have what they call fall ball. So he's asked to join this team because he's a pretty good right-handed hitter. And he asked to join this team, and he's 9. And up on the mound is a pitcher throwing right-handed. So if you know enough about baseball, lefty batter, righty pitcher, and vice versa, right? So he's up at the pitchers at the mound. Sam gets in the right batter's box, righty on righty. And I whistle. Other side. And he looks at me and goes, later. And I went, now. If you want to be a switch hitter, we start today.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah, right.
0 for 61. He didn't get a hit the whole year because he didn't face one lefty pitcher. He only faced righty pitchers. Struck out almost 90% of the time. Cried his eyes out. But he had his reason why. Right. And so that's the story that I always tell him. You have to tell that story to people, because he went an entire season not getting a hit. The coach moved him from third to lineup to down to the bottom of the order to now benching him. But he knew that he had to go through that. And I think that story that's the piece that enabled Sam to now be a college level athlete starting as a freshman, where they can't tell which way he hits. People miss that. And that's the hard part. That's where the mindset industry that you bring up drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because can we as coaches help people get through that? Because that's the hard part. Going 0 for 61, having things torn away from us. Because what you then start doing is questioning, why am I doing this?
You know, I love that story, and I love how you put it, and I love that you use the word decision and decide, because most people don't quite understand what that actually means. Most people think that decision means to add something to you, but actually decision means to take something away, right? The actual root of the world means to take away. So if you make a decision, you are taking away all other options, and you're saying that this is what I am. Right. So people go into decision making not knowing what it really means. So they don't really do the work because they haven't made a proper decision, because they don't understand it. So again, it's awareness, right? And you'll be aware of what you're saying here. So the words are very powerful, which is why we spell them, right? So so when I use this example, right? Before I have any of my clients make a decision about what they want, I give them this example, right? Think about Michelangelo, who sculpted David. Right? He had a huge block of marble, right? Where was David? Right? David was in him and in the marble, right? All he did is he decided to chip away every bit of that marble that wasn't David. And what he ended up with was perfection, David, right? He didn't add bits to it. He didn't overthink it. The process he went through would have probably been something like, is this David? No, away it goes. Is this David? No, away it goes.
Yep.
That's how you make decisions. You chip away at the unnecessary. We've got far too much going on, far too many distractions, far too many voices, how many people, they read one book, they read another, they read another, they read another. They watch one video from one coach, they watch one video from another, they watch one video. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. There's no wonder.
Totally agree.
Right? Pick
totally
one
agree.
book. And I dare you to pick one resource, whoever it is, and study it for a year. Only that one resource, and then see where you are at the end of it. Because I guarantee you'll be much better off.
Well, full circle to how we started this whole discussion. That's why, and that wasn't timed to anybody watching this. That we didn't script this out, you and me.
No.
There's no scripting between the two of us.
No.
But now, full circle, I always tell anyone that works with me that to work with me is to pick a certain book off the shelf. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you're not going to want to work with me anymore. At some point, you're going to go, I think I want to read that one over there. And I'm totally comfortable with it. Because If I go to a library, excuse me, if I want people to come follow me or you, I'm not going to go pitch my services in some place where maybe coaches don't hang out. And I'm a big fan of showing people other coaches because some people may like my style for a while, my book that's on the shelf, and other people may like your style. And I'm a bigger fan of if I help you work through a phase and you want to go someplace else, do it. As a musician, I've had 5 guitar teachers in my life. Now I settled in on one when I got to a certain level that now I love going back to because it was really meeting my needs. But up until that point, some people each along the way helped me get to a certain level. And so that's why full circle, I'm a big fan of promoting you and what you do, and especially the event coming up. So how about that for first full circle and tying this together?
It's great. It's almost
lucky
sublime.
as hell.
Yeah.
Dude, when you're flowing, you're flowing. You don't have to think
exactly.
About it, right?
Right.
So wrap it up for me real quick. You know, I love you and I appreciate your time. So one time real quickly, I'm going to post this video when we're done talking here.
Okay.
You're in the group, so make sure you remind everybody. You follow me personally anyway, so you're going to see that on my primary page.
Okay.
So chime in, but for the group as a video reminder, can you let everyone know the date of the event, the timing, and I know you talked about the presumed cost and the links you're going to share, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. So the event is called Breaking Through. It's on Thursday, the 16th of April, which is next Thursday. It airs from 6:30 p.m. UK time, which is you're currently in Chicago. You're 6 hours behind me. Eastern time is 5 hours behind me, and obviously on the coast there, West Coast, they're 8 hours behind me. So there's your times. It's £15 for the event, and it's online. Everyone that comes along will get a recording of the event as well. And you'll also get put into a group where you're going to get some bonus training. All right. So that hasn't been put onto the that was going to be an unannounced bonus, but I'll allow that to go out now because we're getting people signing up and it's starting to rack and roll. So yes, it's not just a one-off event where you go bang, that's it. So you're going to get an awful lot for your money. You're going to get an awful lot of content, an awful lot of ongoing support and training. So
wonderful.
Yeah, there you go. And I'll put the links up as well so everyone can see. Okay.
The incomparable Paul Webb. You rock. You got to do it with me. I got to get a piece and rock on for you. I know you know how to throw this shit down. Peace, rock on. Look at that, brother. All right, my man. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to stop recording this. Look for those links to me about an hour to get all that stuff set up.
Yeah. I'll send them over to you so you can put them up as well. So no problem.
And so next week, Thursday, we won't be able to do this probably because you're going to be in preparation. So
no, we'll be able to do it.
We can still do it.
Yeah, we can still do it. Yeah.
Don't worry. Well,
I can structure my day perfectly well to do.
Okay, I just don't want to get in the way of that. And if we can't, I understand. We'll figure a way around it.
Yeah. No worries. All right.
You good?
All right, man.
You take care.
Thank you.
Be
so
safe.
Much. And you.
See you, man. Bye.